Alrighty, so looking at lesson 4, it says to efficiently add integers and other rational numbers. This is for 7th grade. So when we talk about it, we talked about a mnemonic device, right? Just a shortcut, a tip, a trick, something to remember to help us with. Remember we talked about when the symbols don't match, plus a negative or minus a positive. When they don't match, TCH, sorry. Don't match. The board's a little off right now. Right, when they don't match, then we move to the left. And when they match, plus a positive, minus a negative, each one of those lines matches, not what the top and the bottom matches, but left and right match. When they match, we move to the right. Right? When we're talking about adding and subtracting integers, which are positive and negative numbers, right? Whole numbers. So represent the sum of 3 plus 5 using arrows in the number line. So starting from 0, we would add 3. That's the plus 3 or the positive 3 in this case. Again, remember, sum means answer to an addition problem. So we always start at 0, right? So if it says we have 3, and then we add 5 more to that, we're going to add this arrow with this other arrow is 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 long, right? That's that arrow. And 1, 2, 3 long is that other arrow, right? When we combine these two arrows, our end result is we end at a positive 8 here. So how long is the arrow that represents 3? It's 3 spaces long, and that's moving to the right. What direction does it point? I guess we could say that that's the second part here. So it moves to the right, or it's pointing right. How long is the arrow represents 5? It's 5 spaces long, or units. Spaces, units, same thing. Right? What direction the point? It also points right. What is the sum? What is the combination of 3 and 5? The sum is a total of 8. Right? If you were to represent the sum using an arrow, how long would the arrow have to be and what direction would it point? It would be an arrow that's 8 spaces long, or 8 units long, and it would be pointing to the right. If we look at it, there are my 2 separate arrows. If I were to draw one arrow, it would be pointing to the right, and it would be 8 spaces long total. Okay. What is the relationship between the arrow representing the number on the number line and the absolute value of the number? All right. So absolute value, in this case, remember, absolute value of 5 and absolute value of negative 5. It's a terrible line. Absolute value of negative 5. The answer is 5 for both of them. Absolute value simply means tell me the amount away from 0 inside. I don't care if it's positive or negative. You're just going to give me that answer as how far away is it from 0. You don't need to tell me direction. You don't need to tell me positive, negative. You need to just tell me how far from 0. So it says, what's the relationship between the arrow representing the number on the number line and the absolute value of the number? Well, let's look. This number on the arrow is 3, and it is, in fact, if we look, it is 3 spaces by the time we're done, right? It's right here. It's 3 spaces away from 0. So the absolute value and the number match, right? This is 5 for the arrow, and we went a total of 5 spaces, so the absolute value of 5 is also 5 spaces or 5 away. So what is the relationship between the arrow representing the number on the number line and the absolute value of the number match? Okay, so the number on the arrow is the amount of spaces or units you move, and absolute value is how far away from 0 it is. You don't use some no negative numbers. You just tell me how far away it is from 0. Even if it's negative 7, then the absolute value would be 7. It's 7 away from 0. You think that adding 2 positive numbers will always give you a greater positive number? If you have 2 positive numbers, right, and you're adding them, it'll always be bigger. If you think about it, when you add a positive, you always move to the right. So if you do that twice, you'll move farther to the right, and you'll end at a bigger number, right? Represent the sum of negative 3 plus negative 5. So this is again where this mnemonic device up here right? We talk about the match, don't match side of stuff. We'll notice here that they don't match. So represent the sum of -3 and -5 using arrows to represent -3 and -5 on the number line. So again, starting at 0, our first number is -3, so that means we would move it 3 spaces this way. 3 spaces this way, right? That's that -3. And then I want us to look very carefully here. We have a plus, a negative. These don't match, so it's going to move to the left. How many spaces? It's going to move 5 spaces left. So from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 spaces to the left. And that's because it was that plus a negative. I end my result here at -8. So how long is the arrow that represents -3? It's 3 spaces or 3 units long. And what direction? It points left in this case because we're going to the left. How long the arrow represents -5? 5 spaces per unit long. And what does it point? It points to the left also because we're doing the plus a negative. So that's the things that don't match move to the left. What is the sum? The sum of that is -8. That's where we ended. If you were to represent the sum using arrow, how long would the arrow be in what direction? It would be 8 spaces or units to the left. Adding 2 negative numbers will always give you a smaller negative number. So 2 negatives means I have a negative and then I'm going to add a negative to it. Remember, if I'm adding a negative, these don't match, which means it's always going to be going to the left or getting to be a smaller number. Right? It's always going to be a smaller number. Same thing with the plus, the positive is always going to be bigger. When you add a negative, right, it's the same thing as like subtracting a positive number from it. It'll always get smaller. What do both examples have in common? Same type of number. So we have 2 negative numbers and we're 2 positive numbers that we're combining, right? Same type of numbers to combine. Okay. Add rational numbers to the same sign by adding the absolute values and using the common sign. Okay, so again, look at this. We start at -4. If we do this plus -2, do we see how we're moving to the left 2 spaces? So if you already owe somebody $4 and then you borrow 2 more, right? That's what that plus -2 is. It means you're taking on a debt saying, hey, I know I already owe you 4. I'm going to borrow 2 more. You obviously owe them more now. You owe them a total of 6, right? If you have 5 and somebody gives you 9 more, you're increasing. Those are both going to the right. See plus a positive. That 9 is positive. We can put a plus symbol there to see that they match, right? This first one, they didn't match or they don't match. So that's why we went to the left. This one, they match. We're going to go to the right. So 5 and 9 together makes 14. Here we start at -6. You already owe them -6. And then you say plus -3. These again don't match. So we're moving to the left 3 spaces. So -6 and then 3 more means you owe them 3 more. You really owe them 9. -1 plus -11. We have again a plus minus, which means they don't match, which means we're moving to the left. You already owe them 1. You borrowing 11 more. You'll owe them 12. 3 plus a positive 5 plus a positive 7. These all match. Oops, wrong way. Excuse me. Match, so they're going that way, and match, so they're going that way. So if you start with 3 and you get 5 more, that's 8, and then you add 7 more, that's 15. You're getting bigger each time. And you have a -20 plus a -15. Again, these don't match, which means we're going to the left. You already owe somebody 20. You borrow 15 more, you'll owe them 35. Finding the sum, you're doing the same basic thing. Again, these would match, so we'd move to the right. 15 and 7 is 22. These ones don't match. So move to the left, we move to the left 16, meaning you already owe 4, you're going to borrow 16 more. You owe more now. You owe 4 and 16 together makes you a total of you owe 20. These don't match, which is left. Again, we're going to combine 18 and 64, and we get 82 is what you would owe. You owe a lot more, right? And then again, these ones here don't match, which means we're going to the left. So we're going to combine 205 with you're borrowing another 123. You'd be left with owing 328. We see here again, oops, I should do it with this one instead. Sorry, we see here again that this is a don't match symbol. So that means we're moving to the left. If we start with 5, right, we have my arrow going to 5, and then add -3 means we're going to take away 3, 1, 2, 3 here. That's my -3. That's my +5, right, that we started with. We see that this is a +5 here because there's no negative symbol in front. We would end right here at a +2. How long is the arrow that represents 5? It's 5 spaces, 4 units long. What direction? That points right. How long is the arrow that represents -3? 3 spaces, 4 units. And what direction does it point? It points left. So we can see they're conflicting, right? So which arrow is longer? The right arrow. Right, that's the one of those 5 is longer. Right, what's the sum? If we represent the sum using an arrow, how long would it be? In what direction? It would be a total of 2 to the right. Remember, that's where we ended. So look, again, starting here, we go 5 spaces to the right, and then we go 3 spaces to the left. We end at 2. So far to start from the beginning, it would be a thing that's 2 spaces to the right. Represent 4 and -7 using the arrows on the number line. So again, starting from 0, we go 4 spaces, and then -7. Remember, we're doing opposite symbols. These don't match, so we're moving to the left. This would be going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spaces. We would end right here, right? In the 2 examples above, what's the relationship between the length of the arrow representing the sum and the length of the arrow representing 2 add-ins? So the longer arrow is the bigger value. All right, take a look at this first one. 7 is the bigger value. That's a longer arrow, right? So we know it's going to be a negative number because that's in red going left. 5 is the bigger number here going in right. So we know it's going to end up with a positive number. So looking at those, we'll compare which one's bigger and smaller, right? If we're doing that, and we can see whether our answer should be positive or negative. What's the relationship between the direction of the arrow representing the sum and the direction of the arrows representing the 2 add-ins? So when we're looking at this, right, if both arrows go the same direction, combine them, right? If arrows go opposite direction, find the difference. And we know that the bigger arrow is the answer in the sense, is answer as far as whether it's negative or positive. Okay. Write a rule that gives the length and direction of the arrow representing the sum of 2 values that have opposite symbols. So let's just write, in this case, I want you to write an example. And so let's say instead of a rule that has that stuff, let's say like 2 values have opposite signs. So 5 plus -1. We see right now that these 2 symbols don't match. So we know we're moving to the left. So now we're going to compare our 5 and our 1. Which one's bigger? The 5 is bigger. So the positive side is bigger. Again, if we were to draw a line, that's 5, right? And we were to draw a line that's 1, right? Do we see how the positive black line is a lot bigger? It's 5. So we find the difference between 5 and 1 is 4. We know that it's going to be in the positive, negative. We know it's going to be in the answer of the bigger line. The bigger line is a positive, so it would be a +4. That would be my answer. Okay. Circle the integer with a greater absolute value. Remember, absolute value just means farther away from 0, right? Bigger number. Don't worry about positive or negative. Decide whether the sum should be positive or negative without actually calculating it. So bigger number here is the number 2, since it's positive. I guess I should do that in black since I've been doing all the negatives in red. Sorry about that. So I see a bigger number here. It's positive. I see a bigger number here. it's negative. I see a bigger number here, it's negative. I see a bigger number here, it's negative. So all of them are negative except for that top one. Find the sum, right? So again, remember, if we don't have a number in front, we don't have a positive in front, plus a positive, these match. So moving to the right. So we did two opposite things. So we start with negative 10, and we're going to go 7 spaces to the right. Keep in mind the negative 10 right now is 10 spaces away from the 0. So 7 is not even enough to get us to 0. So we know it's still going to be a negative number, but it's going to be a negative number that's closer to 0 than negative 10. The difference of 10 and 7 is 3. So it should be negative 3. 8 and negative 16, again, these don't match. So moving to the left, starting with 8, right? And 16, the difference between that is 8. Since the 16 is the negative 16 is the bigger number, right? It's going to be negative 8. 12 and 65, this is a positive 65, so plus a positive, which means they match, which means we're going this way. Sorry, negative 12. So number line, here's my negative 12, right? Here's my 0. We can see that by going 65, it's a number that's way bigger than 12. So if we just go this amount, that's 12, right? We still have quite a bit more. It's terrible drawing there. Quite a bit more to move over here, right? Quite a bit more to move over here to finish our 65, or the difference of 12 and 65 is 53. Since this is a much bigger number, it should be a positive 53. And then again, I have here, these don't match. This is the bigger number. So that means it should end up with a negative number. We start way out here at 105. But when we take away 126, we'll take away 126. Keep in mind, this amount is 105. And then we still have some left over after 126. The difference of 126 and 105 is 21. So this should be negative 21 here. And finding some of these things, again, we're looking for don't match, right? So we know we're moving to the left, and we can find the difference values of that. It says the addition of rational numbers follows the same rule of addition of integers. So find the absolute values of the numbers. So remember, for finding absolute values, just means the number. So the number 6, the absolute value of 6 is just 6. The absolute value of negative 2 and 1/4 is just the number inside without a negative symbol, 2 and 1/4. Okay, subtract the absolute value. 6 minus 2 and 1/4, 6 minus 2 and 1/4. 6 minus 2 would be 4. 4 minus 1/4 would be 3 and 3/4. But again, calculator, right? The answer will take the sign of the number that has a greater absolute value. 6 is a bigger number than 2 1/4, so that means that this should be, the symbol should be positive. Okay. Find the following problem, show your work. Find the sum of negative 18 and 7. So using that same concept, right? We want to find the 18 and we want to find the 7. Absolute value of 7 is 7. Absolute value of negative 18 is 18. Right? We want to find and combine those, take the differences. So we have 18 minus 7, right? 18 minus 7 is 11. And it takes the sign of the bigger one. The bigger one here was the negative symbol, so it should be negative 11. Temperature outside was 73 degrees at 5 p.m., but it fell 19 degrees by 10 p.m. What's the temperature outside? So it starts at 73, and it fell 19 degrees. Take away 19, right? Would be what, 54 degrees. Okay. Write an addition sentence, find the sum. Okay, lose 10 and gain 3.5. Number sentence. Okay, there's your problem set for lesson 4.